This article came out in the New York Times today, and I thought it was really interesting. The idea basically that we can look at the dental industry as kind of a barometer to see how the rest of the economic recovery is going to go. I think that the article makes a lot of good points, but unfortunately, there are some really obvious things that the authors looked past that are a lot more important than the metrics that they cited. If you look at an average dental office in the United States, I would guess the average dental office produces something like $60,000 or $70,000 a month in gross revenue. And if you just completely take that away and limit it to emergency treatment only, obviously that is going to be a huge hit. That is not the result of anything economic yet. It is 100%. We were just not allowed to be open. And as soon as we are allowed to open again, that pretty much just opens the floodgates to a 2.5-month backlog of work that was sitting there waiting to be done. It's not like a restaurant where if you close a restaurant and reopen, what you're hoping for is just kind of, the same amount of customers you had before. But there's no backlog of people. There's nobody that wanted a hamburger a month ago, and when you reopen, they're going to buy 2 now when they come to your restaurant. Where in dentistry, that's a little bit different because I've got like 500 or 600 cleaning appointments, not to mention fillings and crowns and stuff like that we have to reschedule. And so now that we are allowed to be open, I've got a backlog of stuff that is just filling our schedule right now. The economy could be doing great. Demand could be fairly high, but even if it was low, my office would not feel that yet because of the backlog that there is. So if I just look at my numbers, like how full the schedule is, how much revenue we're generating, that really doesn't tell me anything because I have probably, well over $100,000 worth of revenue that we should have had in those 2.5 months that we're kind of regaining now. Again, I don't know if that is the initial floodgate and then it's going to trickle out, or that this is a sign of a recovery. I hope it's a sign of a recovery, but I don't think you can point to that and say for sure. What might be more telling is not necessarily whether I hired people back or how busy we are, but some really specific metrics. How many people are calling the office? How many people are visiting my website? How many people are scheduling new appointments? I normally get between 20 and 30 new patients every month. And so even if I'm busy, if I start seeing, 10, 15 new patients every month, that's a sign to me that there's some economic trouble coming up, even if we're busy right now. I can't confidently look at a full schedule over the next couple weeks and say that that is the result of a good economy, because right now, no matter what the economy is doing, the dominant force is all of that pent-up demand, everything that's been backed up since the middle of March. Another thing about this article is they looked at dentists rehiring staff as a metric of success. To be fair, they did mention it, but a lot of the rehiring of staff is probably incentivized by that payroll protection loan that's out now. Without that, there may be some dentists that would be more cautious or maybe rehire, a couple people at a time rather than their whole staff. But now having that loan, now having it sort of subsidized by the federal government, they've got no reason not to hire everybody back. And I think this is actually not intentionally misleading, but this chart that shows continually ramping up rehiring staff, it looks like a real recovery, like we're getting some momentum going. I think in reality, what this chart reflects is that all of the states were locked down initially, and some places were allowed to reopen before other places. I think it's not that the market is gaining strength. I think it is that the market was artificially suppressed until about now. And so the good numbers that we're seeing now are not a result of some small numbers that got momentum and got better. It is numbers that were forced down, and now that we're sort of coming out of our lockdowns, these numbers are increasing. Never in the history of the United States have dentists not been able to work for a solid 2.5 months. So I really genuinely believe that a lot of the good news we're seeing right now is sort of that hundreds of millions of dollars of backed up demand that people have for the industry. And I think over the next couple months, it's going to be a lot more telling what things look like. Again, I could be totally wrong. That's just my take on it. Please let me know what you think down in the comments, and I guess we'll see what happens.